All right, what's up, folks? I'm just my last video got like a solid like one view, so I'm back again. Shout out to my one viewer. Love you, whoever you are. Um, anyway, I just wanted to do a thing about capitalism. I mean, like capitalism is a meaningless word, but I mean it's not entirely meaningless. It has like associations. Like there's no specific thing capitalism means because it just didn't even develop as a real word. It's like slang. It just was a political term people started using sometime in the 1800s, and but it's very vague. It's like basically like a system where people with money control everything, or I don't know, that's like the closest to the original definition, I guess. But I think like what a lot of people mean when they say capitalism is, I mean, on one hand, some people mean liberal economics, which is to say, um, relative freedom in the market as opposed to a government that controls the entire economy, like ancient Rome or like, Genghis Khan or something. Um, but that's not, yeah, it's a total mess, the meaning. So, anyway, but what I'm talking about is austerity is the real fucking evil thing. Is people who don't want the government to help poor people, which that's a lot of people, like that's a lot of Democrats. I know a lot of Democrats like that. They hate poor people, like a lot of the middle class suburban, you know, um, corporate Dems. If you actually talk to them, like I grew up in, I've lived my whole life here in Northern California, Silicon Valley. I know them. They hate homeless. They hate poor people. They're the exact same as the rednecks. Like, I mean, not real redneck. Like real rednecks are socialists. The real rednecks were socialists. They were like squatters and stuff, like Davy Crockett. That was a real fucking American, not these fucking scum they have now posing as rednecks. But like the pseudo rednecks, the what do you call them? Those kind of like right wing lumpen proles that just are like, rah, rah, damn welfare, people on welfare, blah, blah, blah. Like they're exactly the same as the yuppies, the people that control the government and all the corporations. They have the exact same mentality. And the way they keep it going is by pretending that they're not the same people. They try to trick the rest of us to pretend they're not the exact same fucking people. It's just that there's half, some of them have money, CEOs and stuff, and the shit libs have money, and then these pseudo rednecks have no money, but their mentality is exactly the same. They hate poor people, they worship evil. They're evil people, like they literally are, like hatred of humankind is their guiding principle. Like they're like, fuck you, you don't deserve to live. Go slave for a boss. Go bet on the market and see if it lets you eat. Like anyway. So like a lot of the people that are, I mean, it's fucked up the fact that a lot of the people that are awake about the mandates and about, freedom in that way, like the kind of obvious freedoms, a lot of them are like Ron Paul types where I don't know, I seen somebody posted something from Ron Paul, and I don't know if it was him that said it or it was like or he wrote it or somebody quoted it like this, but he was talking about the government, blah blah blah. They give all this money to the banks and all this welfare to the poor, but it put poor in quotes. So either Ron Paul or whoever wrote that and quoted him, doesn't believe there's real poor people in the US, which is amazing. I mean, it's funny that a lot of the people who think like you should be allowed to live only if you're smart, and poor people aren't smart, so they don't deserve to live. And yet, most of those people are dumb as shit. And if that was ever put into practice, they wouldn't live a minute. You know, if people were allowed to live only if they were smart, all these stupid fucking minions would not live. And a lot of the fucking rich people would not live a minute, you know? Um, I mean, I consider a lot of the poor people to be smarter, but, you know, a lot of poor people are dumb too, so whatever. Everybody's pretty dumb, I guess. By design, very much so. Um, but anyway, like, it's a fundamental question of, you know, like, you can argue whether a particular government is trustworthy at all, but to say that a government shouldn't help poor people is evil. It's purely evil, you know? So, like, I know a lot of these people are just idiots, and, you know, if they're going to join with us to help stop mandates and promote freedom, then okay, and I'll hope they'll get educated about other things on the way. But at the end of the day, if they ever try to, like, you know, I mean, they're still our enemies too, because they want you dead if you get fired by Bezos. If Bezos fires you and Bill Gates won't hire you and there's no jobs, they want you dead. They would much rather you be dead than the government give you a penny to keep you alive. That's evil. They're evil people. So like, and they chose that shit, you know, like they know they're evil. Like the hardcore right wingers, you can tell they glory in the sadism of it. You know, it's just like the way that the authoritarian Democrats basically know they're evil, but they glory in the power of like being authoritarians. Same with these people who hate the poor, you know, and they glory in being cucks because a lot of them are poor, you know, relatively speaking, and yet they still shit all over poor people and act like money is the desideratum of merit. Um, So, you know, I fucking really, really wish Christianity was real and Jesus was gonna come back and like kill the people who worship Mammon and, you know, and elevate the poor and the meek. But I'll do it instead. We'll do it. Somebody will do it. Inshallah. I mean, anyway, it's like, it's just that. It's just you have to realize anybody who has that mindset is a mass murderer. You know, like they would 1,000 times rather the government build billions of roads everywhere for car drivers than to give one piece of bread to a starving orphan. Because they're evil, you know, they're straight up evil, and they're evil on a level that has never really existed. I mean, the Democrats are strangely even more evil, and you know, the Democrats are, as I said, the Democrats are basically the same people. They hate the poor too, but they also have some people that tag along and vote with them that supposedly are pro poor. I don't know. It's amazing. Like anybody who votes for a right winger like Biden is a right winger, period. Unless they do it totally holding their nose and totally acknowledging that he's trash and they somehow just had TDS, so they had to vote for him. But any other way, if you genuinely like Biden, you're right wing. And if you genuinely hate Biden, then you're not very right wing. You know, like the Republicans are like, oh, Biden's terrible. He's a communist. No, he's really not. He would rather kill every like poor person and every communist and every socialist and just have corporations run the world, which is not communism, you know, like elitism is not communism. Like a lot of these right wingers, they use communism just as a byword for everything they don't like. Like, oh man, this weather is so communist. Like, they don't know anything about, and they would be terrified to actually Google communism. They would wet their pants. They'd be like, oh my God, it's gonna infect my brain. Anyway, so yeah, like I tolerate it to some extent when there's people who are allies on other issues, but at the end of the day, it's still evil. Like, I mean, of course, we should set up a system so we're all self, so we're all self-reliant or self-sufficient. But to do that, you have to get rid of land inequality, and the right wingers are not into that either. So um, it's funny because their own like capitalist ideology leads directly to Vanguard and BlackRock and Bill Gates and stuff buying all the farmland in the US and in Ukraine and everywhere else. But then they get mad about it. And I'm like, hey, I'm a socialist, I'm a communist. I've been fighting against this shit my whole life. And you scum are just like, now you're mad at it, even though you've been advocating it. You've been saying, hey, if you have money, you can do whatever you want. You're the good people if you have money. That means you've served society. If you don't have money, you're a bad person. You just deserve to die. And now they're upset that like their own beliefs actually bore fruit. They're upset when they see the fucking product of their own depravity. So like anyway, I hope I think some of them hopefully are learning a bit. I mean, Trump himself was more along the lines of uh, at least giving lip service to helping poor people and giving like healthcare and stuff like that, which pissed off a lot of the hardcore, so-called libertarians and hardcore austerity people. But even a lot of his minions still hate on it. They just, or if anybody does it who's not Trump, that's it. If anybody helps the poor, if they're Trump, it's great, or at least it's fine. If anybody else does it, especially anybody who says that they're left of center, then it's literally the worst thing that could possibly ever happen. So it's like fucking ridiculous. Like, we're so fucked. It's really the time to just not trust anybody. I mean, it's always been that time, uh but yeah, I mean, people just need to fuck off away from each other or leave each other alone if they're not gonna help each other. And some people do help each other. People do great things, and sometimes even these evil governments can be pressured into helping people. Like I just got uh, food stamps for the first time in my life. I'm 41, so the government is buying my food. It's like, they spend trillions of dollars on wars and giving to banks and shit like that. This is the first time, I don't use the roads. Y'all use the roads. Nobody's guilty about using the free government roads and parks and shit like that. So I'm not gonna